Hey guys, Bible in a Year, episode 49. We're looking at Numbers 32 through 36 today. We're going to finish up the book of Numbers. And, it's really a lot of housekeeping stuff, but it's also a lot of contextual stuff for action to come later down the road. So we'll get into it here in a second. Come on in and join it with us. Okay, guys, there we go. We were just talking about this. It is crazy. This is the 49th episode. We'll start the book of Deuteronomy with episode 50.
Yeah. That's exciting.
It really is.
Good. It's good if you're following along. It's good to feel that sense of accomplishment in some ways.
So tell the people this, too. I mean, hearing from me is one thing. Hearing from you, I mean, we all need to be heard from. What are we trying to do with this YouTube channel?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're trying to provide opportunities for people to engage with the Lord in not just one way, but many ways every single day. Like that's truly our goal is in the advancement of social media and what we're doing with this platform. I mean, our goal prior to having this being available to us was, hey, let's create as many opportunities in-house as we can for people to encounter the Lord, whether that be through small groups or a Tuesday night service or, just a Wednesday service or just services when we could have them, prayer services. But now, there's opportunity to not only encounter the Lord once a day, but multiple times a day, and engage in the spiritual disciplines that are important to kingdom, that are foundational to our faith. Like, you can pray with us, you can read with us, you can worship with us. I mean, the fasting is a whole different animal, but there needs to be a component of that.
Sure.
We'll work towards that, but those things are important, and we don't want there to be any reason why people can't grow in their faith here at Kingdom.
Absolutely. Specifically with this YouTube channel, guys, we're trying to curate and catalog discipleship opportunities for you. So when we finish up Bible in a Year at the end of November, you're preaching Advent this year.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is Pastor Daniel will kind of form the structure. I'm not going to say we're switching chairs.
Right.
But we will switch chairs.
Mm-hmm.
And you will take the lead on the podcast. And through Advent, we'll talk about your sermons. And we'll do it day after day after day. So where you were doing the sermon recap, this becomes a journey people walk through all through Advent. I'm not sure what we'll do next year, but we'll probably have a New Testament component or an Old Testament component. And we'll just keep creating, and then we might get topical some too.
Yeah,
I know you had some ideas of things you wanted to do topically, so we'll get into all that later. But for now, let's go ahead and finish up Numbers 32 through 36. Now, Pastor Daniel is funny. I hadn't shown him this outline, but I wanted him to, or he wanted me. He said, "Hey, what did you outline for this? Where are you going with all this?" And I said, one of the biggest things that people need to understand, in my opinion, is what's happening here with Numbers 32. So in Numbers 32, you have the Reubenites, okay, the descendants of Reuben, the Gadites, the descendants of Gad, and half of the tribe of Manasseh. So half of the people who are descendants of the tribe of Manasseh, they come to Moses and they say to Moses, look, we really like the farmland on this side. We want to raise our crops. We want to, tend our livestock on the eastern side of the Jordan River. So if you guys Google a map of Israel, okay, up at the top, you're going to see the Sea of Galilee. Down at the bottom, you're going to see the Dead Sea. The river that runs north to south from the Sea of Galilee down to the Dead Sea, that's the Jordan River. And it literally, we were there. It literally is almost a straight line from
straight,
Galilee down to the Dead Sea. So when you're reading Numbers, all of this activity is taking place on this side.
Yeah.
This is the east side of the Jordan River, all right? Jerusalem is on the west side, okay? Jericho is on the west side. They have to cross the Jordan River. So the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh come to Moses and say, we don't want to occupy the space on the west side of the Jordan, which was the promised land. We want a special provision to just set up shop over here. Now, when the other Israelites find out about it, they're like, now, wait a second here. Are you, and God the same way, God says, now what's your intention here?
Right.
Is your intention not to go with us and fight to gain this property? Are you breaking camp from the unity that we have as the 12 tribes?
Yeah.
And they say, no, we will fight with you. We will be part of the conquest. We just want to set up shop over here. And later on, it turns into a whole nother mess, which you'll read about. I think it's in the book of Joshua. It's just, I haven't looked ahead, but I'm like 99.9% sure that's where it happens, in the book of Joshua. Another issue comes up with all of this, but you'll read about that later. But that's what's going on here, in this passage. And it doesn't seem like a big deal. It's a big deal.
It is, yeah.
Then you get over to Numbers 33, okay? Take a look with me if you would, guys. Numbers 33, 55 and 56. This is a key verse because it sums up Israel's history, and we can talk about this one in a little more detail. God says, but if you do, well, it's Moses saying this, but he's announcing God's word. But if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land, those you allow to remain will become barbs in your eyes and thorns in your sides. They'll give you trouble in the land where you live, and then I will do to you what I plan to do to them. It's come on, how many times have we heard Pastor James quote this passage? Bad company corrupts good morals.
Yeah.
Or bad morals corrupt good character.
Yep.
When you hang around with garbage,
Yeah.
you end up turning into garbage.
Yeah.
It's like quoted Pinocchio on Sunday morning. When you hang out with a bunch of jackasses, you're going to turn into a jackass.
That's what the two things that I was thinking of: birds of the same feather flock together.
There it is.
If you run with dogs, you'll get fleas.
And that's what
it's yeah.
And it's what happens in Israel's history as we go farther and farther into all of this. They end up looking more like the world than they do God, and it's because their devotion is to the enemy.
Yeah.
It's like we said in the last episode. They don't yoke themselves to God.
Right.
They yoke themselves with the Baal of Peor.
Right.
And it's a problem.
Right.
Yeah. So that's another thing that comes up. You have the boundaries of the promised land that you're going to read about today in Numbers 34. And then you get to Numbers 35, talking about the towns for the Levites and the 6 cities of refuge. Basically what the 6 cities of refuge are, if someone had killed somebody, and it was an accident. Let's say it was like manslaughter. It wasn't on purpose, and someone dies. Instead of eye for eye, tooth for tooth, whoever was the person who caused the death, they could go to those cities of refuge and get a fair trial, so to speak. It wasn't, hey, we're going to give you a trial and a first-rate hanging.
Yeah.
It was, they go to those cities and they're able to make their case there.
Right.
And so death may not have been the issue for them. So God says set those things up. Now, do me a favor, guys. Meet me over here at Numbers 35. I want you to look at verses 30 to 34, and I want you to see that Numbers 35, 30 to 34, is deeply messianic in nature. Watch this. Numbers 35, 30 to 34. Anyone who kills a person is to be put to death as a murderer only on the testimony of witnesses. But no one is to be put to death on the testimony of only one witness. Do not accept a ransom for the life of a murderer who deserves to die. They're to put to death. Do not accept a ransom for anyone who has fled to a city of refuge, and so allow them to go back and live on their own land before the death of the high priest. Do not pollute the land where you are. Bloodshed pollutes the land, and atonement cannot be made for the land on which blood has been shed, except by the blood of the one who shed it. Do not defile the land where you live and where I dwell, for I, the Lord, dwell among you dwell among the Israelites. So, When they get to the trial of Jesus, it's a farce. It's a mess. It's a kangaroo court. They cannot agree on any of the testimony. And this comes up. This passage comes up. Our law says that no man should be able to be killed on the testimony of one witness. One witness. It takes multiple witnesses.
Yep.
And that's where they say none of these witnesses agree. And it's where the high priest turns to Jesus. I mean, Jesus signs his own death warrant. And it's a product of this passage.
Yep.
Because the high priest says, tell us plainly if you are the Messiah. And Jesus says, I'm the Messiah.
That's right.
He signs his own death warrant.
In front of everybody.
They've got no witnesses.
Yep.
And he signs his own death warrant by saying, yeah, I am. And you're going to see the glory of God seated at the right hand of God the Father Almighty. That's where this comes from. I mean, that's
something to think about.
It is. See, this is what we're talking about. And Pastor Daniel's talked about this 50,000 times in these 49 episodes that we've had. Everything in the old is connecting to the new in every single way.
Yeah.
We're almost done here. I want to show you one more passage, Numbers 36. It's another discussion of Zelophehad's daughters. Look at verse 9. Because the complaint that comes up in this passage is this. So what if Zelophehad's daughters married outside of their tribal clan? And then they die. The land would transfer to a tribe outside of their own, and that goes against God's law.
It does.
And that can't happen. So this is what they say in verse 9. Numbers 36, verse 9. No inheritance may pass from one tribe to another, for each Israelite tribe is to keep the land it inherits. It inherits. So if you're from the tribe of Judah, you cannot pass land appointed to the tribe of Judah to the tribe of Benjamin.
Right.
The tribe of Benjamin cannot transfer land to the tribe of Naphtali. Everyone gets their own
allotted land.
Allotted tribal land. Now, this is a deep dive, I know.
Okay.
And it's not a stretch. It's just a deep dive. If you read 1 Kings 21, you're all the way down the line at Ahab and Jezebel at this point.
Okay.
So Ahab goes to this guy named Naboth, and he likes his vineyard. And he tries to take his vineyard. And Naboth says, I mean, that's all well and good, but you and I aren't from the same tribe. And no inheritance may pass from one tribe to another, for each Israelite tribe is to keep the land it inherits. It can't pass.
Right.
Naboth ends up dead. And this is the downfall, ultimately, of Ahab and Jezebel. And it says right there, that's where she's going down, buddy. And there ain't going to be nothing left of her. And sure enough, that's where they lick up her blood. And it's also a product of all of this. Wow, what a journey through this book. Bring us home, man.
There's a lot to think about there. I mean, when you're referring to the passage in Numbers 33, it's making me think about something I wrote about accountability the other day, and we won't get into it because I know we're closing here, but I just think that there's for every action there's a reaction.
Yeah.
You know? And
so much is that is so true in the book of Numbers, isn't
it? Yeah. And then like that is so important to see because like I want to finish where we started with all of this. I think this book is a fantastic book for Christians to dive into because it really is the reality of our lives is we've been rescued from our sin and we're not yet in the promised land.
Yeah.
We're not yet to heaven. And so we're kind of in this, we're foreigners, we're sojourners, we're here in this temporary place that we're passing through, and we've been given instruction on how to live in the wilderness here, and it's important to carry that out. And we see that, again, for every action, there's a reaction, and there's a consequence a lot of times when we do things that aren't in the order of God. And like my thing is like, I think you see it with the Israelites. I think there's a lot of times they get upset with God for something they've done.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And some, like, I know we don't really like this language in our culture right now, but like, there are decisions that I make in my life that have consequences, you know, and to make a decision without counting the cost or recognizing that the decision I'm about to make may have consequences with it. It's what Coach Lopez used to say to me all the time. He said, you know what the difference between a boy and a man is? I said, no. He said, a boy doesn't really care about the consequences and just makes the decision and counts it as somebody else's problem.
Right.
But a man will count the cost and make the decision, and even when he's wrong, take responsibility for it.
Huge.
And so, I don't know, like back to what we've covered really here in the last couple episodes, like if you're going to be a noble person for the glory of God, then be the man or the woman God has called you to be for his glory and his glory alone.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
You know, this book is numbers. It's the numbering. And so many numberings in this. And it's funny, while you're talking, I'm thinking he was numbered among the transgressors. Jesus is numbered among the transgressors, that we can be numbered among the family of God.
Yeah.
So powerful. Hey, guys, thanks for walking through this book with us. Pastor James will be in on these next episodes as we start Book of Deuteronomy, 50th episode on Deuteronomy, that first one. So God bless you. Pastor Daniel will be back with us here soon. Couple of books down the line, but we keep chugging along. Let's keep working through this Bible in a year together. God bless you guys. We'll see you next time.